Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it happens to be for you right now. Welcome to He Sees Us All YouTube and Bitchute channel. Today I want to talk with you all about the most recent Epstein event, and of course the cover stories that are already being put in place. But first, I wanted to take a really quick second to thank the channel's newest Patreon, Conclave Cabal. Thank you so much for donating to the channel. Not only do I thank you, but also my family thanks you. I've sent you my cell phone number as well, so feel free to text me anytime. You can send me various links directly, or we can just chat if you're in need of prayer or even just an ear. I do this for all of my Patreons, and there's one other Patreon that I would like to thank, but as I said before, I don't thank people publicly until I speak with them and make sure it's okay with them. So if you are a Patreon, just check your Patreon messages. Some people wish to remain completely anonymous, and not only do I fully understand that, I can respect that as well. Now, I'm sure everyone is well aware by now that Jeffrey Epstein has been suicided in his prison cell, right, in Manhattan, New York. Now, I don't want to say this, but we all saw this coming. I mean, the writing on the wall could not have been more obvious. For one, no one, and I mean no one, can name the Clintons and get away with it. They have quite the hefty body count already, and these are just the names we all know about. I'm willing to bet there are a whole lot more names than these, like people who were not directly tied to the Clintons, but maybe found some things out on their own. And it wasn't just the Clintons that was being named, it was Prince Andrew as well. We're talking blue blood royalty now. See, when I made my last video, I said that chances were pretty high that Epstein would never see a courtroom. And I also said that them moving him would either be because it would be easier to get to him or easier to get him out. Now, when they moved him, they said that they were putting him on suicide watch. And then somehow he had enough time to not only fashion a noose, which would take some time for sure, but also enough time to hang himself and suffocate. You do not die instantly from a hanging. So this seriously should be raising some eyebrows everywhere. Where was the officer that was watching him? They must have a log, right? Or at least know who was on schedule. Are any charges going to come out of this now? Probably not. See, I'm willing to bet that we will never hear about Epstein's Island again. We will never see anyone pay for anything that went on that island either. After a couple of weeks, this whole story will be swept right under the rug. Probably after another big event just to distract people. The only reason the FBI is claiming to launch investigations into this matter is because the majority does not believe the BS story that is being force-fed to us right now. And they have to comfort the public somehow. And what's worse about all this doesn't even look like Jeffrey Epstein. Look at the dead man's nose and ears. Then look at Epstein's nose and ears. They're completely different. Now, why would that be? Was the transfer to the Manhattan prison suicide watch because that was where they would be able to get Epstein out? Some masked man probably opened his cell door in the middle of the night and told him it was time to go. And surprise, there was a camera malfunction that day too. He's probably on another island somewhere laughing it up and sipping mojitos. I also found this online from an anonymous poster, but it looks like it could have been written by someone working at the prison. Obviously, this can't be confirmed, but this is where you're supposed to be using your God-given discernment. It sounds pretty legit to me just because of the words that this person chose to use. It's just the wording, all of the wording. This person wrote, "Not saying anything after this. Please do not try to dox me. But last night, after 04:15 count, they took him medical in a wheelchair, front cuffed, but not one triage nurse says they spoke to him. Next thing we know, a trip van shows up. We do not do releases on the weekends unless a judge orders it. Next thing we know, he's put in a single-man cell and hangs himself. Here's the thing. The trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number. And a guy in a green dress military outfit was in the back of the van, according to the tower guy who let him through the gate. You guys, I'm shaking right now, but I think they switched him out." Now, I want you all to look at this picture again and tell me that what this person wrote sounds crazy. And you know what really makes me believe this is written by a CO or someone working at the prison? The terminology that they use when they wrote this. They say 0415 count in trip van, and they took him medical. To say that they took him medical and trip, just all those things. Terms that only like the COs and prisoners would be using. Anyone outside of the prison would probably not call the transport vehicle a trip van. And you also have to keep in mind that these people are all a part of a brotherhood, one that they take an oath to defend and protect one another in. Epstein and his one-time girlfriend, or madam is a better fit, but Epstein and Maxwell provided a service for these people. He was well-known and well-liked. How do you think it was he was able to leave his prison cell, not this time, but last time, 6 days a week for like 12 hours or more at a time? I read one place that it was 12 hours, and then I read somewhere else that it was like 16. Either way, he shouldn't have been let out at all. And he was let out for his work? Someone please enlighten me on what work he was doing that was so important that he could leave his jail cell 6 days a week to attend to. He already had a really short sentence as it was. I have an article that I want to read most of to you all about Epstein, but before I do that, I wanted to point out the numerology that's just all over this case. First, Epstein's name dies. I feel funny saying Epstein dies because who knows if that was really Epstein or not? Homeless people disappear all the time. But Epstein's name died on 8/10/19. Now, if you add the 1 and the 9, you have 8/10/10. Then if you add the 8 with the 1 and the 1, 8, 1, and 1, you have 10 again. That was something that I just noticed right off the bat. These people do not perform these tasks unless they believe that they have the universe on their side. This is all a part of Kabbalah mysticism and sacred geometry. Now, I would say a close friend now, but a Patreon to the channel sent me some interesting information as well. Epstein was 66.6 years old, and I checked the math myself. She's right. Epstein was born on January 20th, 1953, and from January 20th to August 10th, we have 203 days. Now, and he was 66. So now, when you break this down, you take the 365 days we have in an entire year, and you divide it by the 203 days he lived thus far this year. To make this a decimal in the 100th percent, we divide 365 by 100 first, and we get 3.65. You do the same with the 203 days. Then we divide the 2.03 days he lived thus far in 1 year by the whole year of 3.65. And we are then left with 0.556, or rounded to the 10th decimal, 0.6. So Epstein was literally 66.6 years old. And to top all of that off, he died on the 222nd day of the year at 6:39 a.m. 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. And you can break the 6:39 a.m. into sixes two different ways as well. You can either subtract the 3 from the 9 and you have 6 or negative 6, depending on how you want to look at it. Or you can add the 3 to the 9 and get 12, which then breaks down to 6 plus 6. So you are left with 666. I hate to break it to everyone, but these types of coincidences do not happen by chance. I know it sounds like a lot of crazy rambling to some people, but I promise it's not. Everything has to be in perfect balance before these people will pull these types of stunts. They waited for that day, that exact day, at that exact time. This is far exceeding what most would label as an accident or chance. Now, this is the article that I wanted to read some of to you all because it talks a lot more than just about Epstein's persona dying. It talks about the people he was naming, his previous arrest, and really seemed to paint a pretty decent picture of who Jeffrey Epstein really was. Billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, 66, commits suicide in his Manhattan jail cell. Notice how they make it a point to state his age right in the headline. Normally, you read the age in the article itself. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong there. It just struck me as odd how all of these articles state that he was 66 right in their headlines. Anyway, FBI launches an investigation after billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide by hanging himself in prison a day after lawsuit by his sex slave was unsealed and named a host of his powerful friends, including Prince Andrew. Funny how the recent FBI Phoenix memo that was released specifically stated that those who believe in an elite pedo ring are potential terrorists. You see how swiftly and neatly this is all being cleaned up right now? Timing is everything, you guys. Remember that. Jeffrey Epstein has hanged himself inside his New York jail cell. Firstly, shouldn't it say hung, not hanged? Is hanged even proper terminology? And secondly, I feel like that whole statement is really left up for debate. The billionaire pedophile was found in cardiac arrest shortly before 7 a.m. on Saturday at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Lower Manhattan. He was rushed to a nearby New York downtown hospital where he was pronounced dead. In a statement, Metropolitan Correctional Center told dailymail.com that the FBI is now launching an investigation into Epstein's death. Well, that statement is pretty vague. Who told them? Because obviously it wasn't the whole correctional center. Was it a correctional officer or was it the warden? And the FBI is launching an investigation? Really? One that we will never hear about again, I'm guessing. This investigation is really just to appease the herd, just long enough for them to forget. The former financier, 66, was awaiting trial on charges of conspiracy and sex trafficking, was being held at the high security. Now that's a laugh. High security. Yeah, okay. Epstein was being held at the high security complex without bail. Epstein, who once boasted an array of high-profile friends, including Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton, was arrested on July 6th, accused of arranging to have sex with dozens of underage girls at his residences in New York City and Florida between 2002 and 2005. Notice, as well, Epstein was arrested on July 6th. There's your 6 again. And really, anyone is going to not only name the Clintons, but the royal family as well? I don't think so. There was not a batch chance in hell that Epstein was ever going to see a courtroom. He had pled not guilty to the charges. Epstein's suicide comes just 2 weeks after he was hospitalized following what may have been an initial attempt to take his own life. Okay, so now this is one of those writing on the wall scenarios, right? Remember Epstein's first so-called attempt came along with the questioning of another man's involvement, Mr. Tartaglione? What the writing on the wall looks like right now was that Epstein was actually attacked by another prisoner and actually almost killed the first time. So they then moved him somewhere he would be safer until the day came that the elite felt was on their side. August 10th. And they figured they could say the first attempt was a suicide attempt, not only to move him, but to make it more believable next time around. This way they could say, well, look, he attempted it just 2 weeks prior. I mean, really, are people out there actually believing this story right now? The article goes on to say, on July 24th, Epstein was rushed, and there you have it again, on July 24th, though, you add the 2 and the 4, and you have 6 again. There's just 6s all over this case. Epstein was rushed. It's mind-boggling. Epstein was rushed to the hospital under police guard after he was discovered semi-conscious on the floor of his prison cell in the fetal position. He spent several hours receiving medical attention before he was transported back to the Metropolitan Correctional Center. It has not been confirmed whether Epstein attempted suicide or whether he was attacked inside his prison cell. After his brief hospitalization, the billionaire was placed on suicide watch. Suicide watch, which is literally where inmates are watched 24/7. So to say that this should have been impossible is an understatement. However, okay, here's their brilliant explanation that just makes so much sense. However, he was taken off such a watch list before he took his own life Saturday morning. That revelation has sparked outrage from Attorney General William Barr, who has vowed to look into the circumstances surrounding the suicide. You guys just wait until I tell you all about this man's connection to Epstein. Attorney General William Barr. I'll get to that in a few minutes. Epstein's death raises some serious questions that must be answered, he said in a statement on Saturday afternoon. In addition to the FBI's investigation, I have consulted with the Inspector General, who is opening an investigation into the circumstances of the death. For some reason, while reading this, the Inspector Gadget song popped into my head. I don't know why. I just figured I'd share that with you guys. Really, this is all just a dog and pony show for these people anyways. Nothing will come from this. Nothing. They will just keep the distractions coming, and everyone will soon forget who Epstein even was. An inside source reportedly told on Saturday that wealthy Epstein had been extorted by other inmates inside his high-security prison. Well, now that statement probably came from the warden, because I don't know who else would refer to the prison as their prison. The publication further reported that he had been living like a pig in sty over the past few weeks and eating his meals off of the floor and constantly requesting more toilet paper. Now here we go with the big buildup of the state of Epstein's mental health, right? Or just a cover story for why Epstein smelt like a homeless man when the EMTs showed up. They literally just said he smelt like a pig in shit. Come on now. Meanwhile, the billionaire's death comes just 24 hours after more than 2,000 pages of documents detailing the lurid allegations of his sexual abuse of underage girls were unsealed to the public. Wouldn't you think that if they unsealed these documents, that keeping Epstein on suicide watch would be a must? Negligence, right? It was just a matter of negligence. I'm just going to keep on reading. On Friday morning, a federal appeals court published explosive documents pertaining to a 2015 lawsuit that Virginia Roberts, now I don't think I can pronounce her last name, so I'm just going to refer to her as Roberts throughout this article. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not even going to attempt that one. Sometimes my pronunciation skills really aren't the best. Everybody knows I have a lisp, so. But pertaining to a 2015 lawsuit that Roberts had filed against Epstein's associate, socialite Ghislaine Maxwell. Roberts claimed Epstein and Maxwell kept her as a sex slave in the early 2000s while she was underage. Now, my one big question here, which I've had since the very beginning of all of this nonsense, is where were the girls' mothers or fathers at this time? Where were the parents when these underage girls were leaving for days at a time and flying on private jets to private islands? This whole thing has so many holes in it, it isn't even remotely funny. The unsealed papers, which made international news on Friday, implicated a number of high-profile men in sex scandals. Now, here's a picture of Epstein and Maxwell, and under this picture it said, Epstein is pictured with his associate and one-time girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, in 2005. And on Friday, explosive court documents pertaining to a 2015 lawsuit filed against Maxwell were unsealed, revealing damning new details about Epstein's alleged crimes. So, the documents that were publicly released were from a lawsuit that was filed against Maxwell, not Epstein. And Maxwell was never charged as she settled outside of court with all of the victims for an undisclosed amount. And she also denies any and all of the allegations, but seeing as to her working so closely with Epstein, and even has been referred to as his madam, I'm willing to bet there was all kinds of damning evidence in there. And these documents, I believe, are where Prince Andrew was specifically named, which makes me wonder if any of this can even be tried if the victims have already settled outside of court. I'm guessing no, as they would have had to sign paperwork to receive said settlements, so unless some new victims come forward that haven't already been paid off, I don't know if it's even legal for them to testify. Well, against Maxwell anyway, and Epstein's dead. I'm sure whatever they signed said they could no longer speak about Maxwell or the events related to her, including the events involving the royal family. I honestly don't have any idea how that works, though, so if someone does know how that would all work or how that would happen or about the legality involved with this, please leave it in a comment down below just for my curiosity. Now, the article goes on to talk about the documents released. The court documents unsealed on Friday include a transcript of a May 3, 2016 deposition made by Roberts. She alleged that she was trafficked by Epstein and Maxwell to have sex and provide erotic massages for politicians and affluent businessmen. Roberts claimed that she was instructed by Maxwell to have sex with two high-powered Democrats, former Senate Majority George Mitchell and former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson. Both Richardson and Mitchell have denied the allegations. Well, obviously, but according to the documents, Roberts claimed that she According to the documents, Roberts claims she also had sex with Epstein's friend Prince Andrew when she was 17 years of age. The prince has always denied any wrongdoing, and in a 2015 court application, a judge threw out Roberts' allegations that she had sex with the prince. The judge ordered the allegations to be struck from the record as being immaterial and impertinent. Buckingham Palace has also issued on the record statements in January of 2015 stating any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue. Is it? Does everybody remember that time that kid dropped butt naked from Buckingham Palace with a bedsheet like he was running for his life? I'm just going to keep going with this article. I thought that clip was necessary to add in there. Roberts was working at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort at the time she met Ghislaine Maxwell, who then went on to introduce her to Epstein. Epstein is known for his previous friendships with President Trump, but Roberts has denied ever having sexual relationships with the commander-in-chief. Epstein was also an associate of Bill Clinton, but the unsealed court documents reveal that Roberts similarly denied ever being intimate with him. Here's a picture of Roberts with Prince Andrew when she was a teenager, and underneath this picture it says, Jeffrey Epstein's former sex slave Virginia Roberts alleges that she was intimate with Prince Andrew at the London home of Ghislaine Maxwell in Unsealed Files. She is pictured with Prince Andrew and Maxwell at Maxwell's London townhouse in 2001. And here's another picture of the prince taking a stroll with Epstein himself in Central Park in 2010. So what exactly is Prince Andrew and the royal family claiming that his relationship was with these people? Roberts was the first woman to go public with the accusations against Epstein and is the most high profile of his alleged victims. The alleged sex slave has previously recounted how she found herself being shuttled around the world and raped by men 3 times her age in court papers after she met Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm sorry, but I have to stop for just a second. The typos that all of these articles have nowadays never cease to amaze me. I've been trying really hard to ignore them, but it gets harder and harder for me every time. Epstein had promised me a lot, and I knew if I left, I would be in big trouble. I also knew that I was a witness to a lot of illegal and very bad behavior by Epstein and his friends, stated one filing. If I left Epstein, he knew all kinds of powerful people. He could have me killed or abducted, and I always knew he was capable of that if I didn't obey him. He let me know that he knew many people in high places. I was very scared, particularly since I was a teenager. When I was with him, Epstein had sex with underage girls on a daily basis. His interest in that kind of sex was obvious to the people around him, she also stated. The activities were so obvious and bold that anyone spending any significant time at one of Epstein's residences would clearly have been aware of what was going on. Now, this part of the article is why I chose this specific article for this video. Although since I started this recorded and started reading it, I would say that what I've already read was pretty important to note as well. Jeffrey Epstein's Undoing, a timeline of the billionaire pedophile's downfall. 1999, Virginia Roberts is allegedly recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell to become, not became, seriously, do they even hire editors anymore? To become Epstein's sex slave at 17. She also claimed that he forced her to have sex with his friend, Prince Andrew, the second son of Queen Elizabeth. 2002. Trump tells New York Magazine that his friend Epstein likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them on the younger side. Now, before people get all crazy in the comments with me, I would like to remind you all that I did not write this myself. I'm just reading it and commenting on it. 2005. A 14-year-old girl tells police that Epstein molested her at his Palm Beach mansion. May 2006. Epstein and two of his associates are charged with multiple counts of unlawful sex acts with a minor. State attorney at the time, Barry Kersher, referred the case to a grand jury who heard from just two of the 12 girls law enforcement had gathered as potential witnesses. They returned just one single count of soliciting prostitution. July 2006, the case is referred to the FBI by the Florida Palm Beach police, who were unhappy with how the case was handled. So the FBI was aware back then. Why would people think that this investigation would be handled any better? 2007, Epstein's lawyers meet with Miami's top federal prosecutor, Alexander Acosta, who would later become the Secretary of Labor in the Trump administration. They secretly negotiate the deal of a lifetime. Now, if people still can't see that everyone is involved and they just want us all at each other's throats, I'm not sure they will ever see it. As I said in my last video about all of the recent events going on, the plan is to just sit back and watch the Gollum kill each other. But first, they must make us hate each other. Do you really think Bush, then Obama, then Trump was an accident? June 2008. After pleading guilty to 2 prostitution charges, the billionaire was sentenced to 18 months in a low-security prison in exchange for prosecutors ending their investigation into his sex acts with minors and give him immunity from future prosecution related to those charges. In reality, Epstein was able to work from his office 6 days a week while supposedly incarcerated at the jail. July 2008, accusers learn of the deal for the first time. So it was way after. July 2009, Epstein is released from jail 5 months early. You see, this is where they are flat out telling us the kind of power these people possess. Epstein was allowed to leave 6 days a week because of the service that he provided these people. And then he was let out early on top of it. Epstein has been protected since day one. And I really wonder if he was attacked the first time, which was maybe not a part of their original plan. They just worked it in to fit their agenda. But seeing as it being on the 24th and you being able to turn that into a 6 again, I don't know. This whole thing is just, it's all manufactured. July 2018, the Miami Herald publishes investigative journalist Julie K. Brown's expose on Epstein's long history of alleged sexual abuse and news of the deal of a lifetime after Acosta was made labor secretary. So they didn't publish this information for 9 years after Epstein's release. Does that make sense to anyone at all? This is all happening now with reason. This is very, very strategic, and the numerology is just everywhere. February 2019, the Justice Department opens an internal review into Epstein's plea deal. July 7th, 2019, Epstein is arrested after his private jet lands at New Jersey's Teterboro Borough Airport from Paris. At the same time, federal agents break into his Manhattan townhouse where they uncovered hundreds of photographs of naked minors. July 8th, 2019. Epstein is charged with sex trafficking charges, which detailed how he created a network of underage girls in Florida and New York, paying girls as young as 14 to provide massages and sex acts. Now, there may have been girls younger. It's just what's documented is girls as young as 14. The charges carry a sentence of up to 45 years in prison. July 11th, 2019. More than a dozen women not previously known to law enforcement came forward to accuse him of sex abuse. Now, see, this is why they had to get Epstein out. Because if people not like they weren't known to law enforcement before came forward, then these are people who may not have been paid off already. July 24th, 2019. Epstein was found unconscious in his cell after an apparent suicide attempt. He was moved to suicide watch at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. August 9th, 2019. More than 2,000 documents are unsealed which reveal the lurid allegations against Epstein in detail. August 10th, 2019. Epstein is found dead in his cell. Well, somebody was found dead in Epstein's cell. Now, I really wanted to read this whole article to you guys, but the rest of it just really goes into detail about the timeline that I just read off. And some of it's about Epstein, like, embezzling money from the guy who owns Victoria's Secret. It was kind of information that wasn't necessary. I do, however, want to highlight a couple of other things that were in the article before closing out this video. First off, the man who negotiated Epstein's original so-called sweetheart deal was supposedly Miami's top prosecutor at the time, and he later became the Trump administration's Secretary of Labor, right? And this was years after this deal was negotiated, mind you. But we as the public weren't told about any of it until last year, forcing this man to resign from his position in the Trump administration. But remember, he got that position after he had already negotiated said deal. Now, second, the man, and this is the most important part to me right now, the man who has vowed to investigate Epstein's death, Attorney General William Barr, well, Epstein was hired by this man's father, Donald Barr, as a physics and mathematics teacher when he was much younger, of course. But despite Epstein having no formal qualifications, so he gave this guy like a really sweet position even though he wasn't qualified. So clearly, Epstein had some form of a personal relationship with the current Attorney General's father. But don't you worry, guys. This guy has given us his word. So that should make everyone feel good, right? You see, everything is connected, and right now, they have to put on a good show for the brainwashed masses. The masses want anger and outrage. They want a full investigation into the matter, and they want it now. So that's what they'll get. A good show of anger, acted outrage, and empty promises to an investigation that will produce nothing in the end. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I apologize that I'm late on this, but believe it or not, I've been working on this video since the day it happened. I don't generally just turn on the mic and go. I like to put together as many notes as I can and like jam as much information in as I can as well. And with that being said, I love you guys and thank you all for joining me today. Please don't forget to hit the like button and share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. I don't know if anyone else has pointed out the Attorney General's relationship to Epstein or not, and I feel like that's kind of a big deal. Maybe even a conflict of interest. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and also subscribe to my Bitchute channel and my backup channel here on YouTube. But if YouTube takes us out, though, Bitchute is where you will all find me. You can also follow me on Reddit and follow me on Twitter at HeSeesUsAll1. May God continue to bless each and every one of you. May He be with you all on your walks through life, and may He continue to protect you all in these very questionable days that approach us. I hope you all join me in my next video.